Hi there, welcome. You're with Jennifer Frost. I am your Stampin' Up demonstrator from Australia for the Crafty Carrot Collective. Today we have our Sailing Home program tutorial and I've got a few things to share with you. I've just had a whole bunch of messages pop up on my phone. My phone battery actually ran dead this morning and I thought, oh no, I've got my live, so I need to charge it. So everything's popping up, all my notifications popping up. Okay, so this is a much bigger group than we normally have. We've opened it up for free for all of you to share. The group will stay open so you can access these videos at any time. They don't go away, they'll live forever in this group, much like all our subscriptions. So if you pick up a subscription, they're always there to inspire you and you can jump back in and view the videos at any time. Oh, look, people are here. Hello, that's exciting. Thank you for joining me. I'm trying to think of all those things that I would normally tell you. I'm a bit out of it because I just watched the end of a very sad movie that I didn't expect to be sad. So sometimes that happens, doesn't it? Now, we had a blog hop for this particular program and I made this really, really sweet, simple card. So I'm going to start with that as a warm-up. But we just recently had another blog hop this month. So every month we blog hop to share what's happening in upcoming programs. And the reason we do this is we love to stamp, and being able to pull out these products and have a bit of a practice run and a warm-up and share it with you all, that's a lot of fun for us. So I made this little project here, so you can see that now on the blog and you can follow through, and I actually have Susan's card here too because she gave that to me on Monday when she came to visit. So that was really, really awesome, and I love that I've got that piece of her here at home. So do check that out if you're interested. It's the Daisy Lane blog hop. And it is your last chance in 2019 to pick up our 3-month subscription. So we have 3 more Crafty Carrot months left this year. September is Daisy Lane. October we're doing a Christmas Spectacular. And in November we're featuring a really fun Christmas project from the brand new catalogue. But I don't want to give that away yet. So if you pick up one of our discounted subscriptions, a 3-month subscription, you will be able to do September, October and November, and it only works out here to be about $13.30 odd cents. And then you've got all of that inspiration there that you can refer back to. And when you've got the Christmas holidays, and if you're like me, after Christmas you're able to get back into crafting again, it's all there for you to get back into. Hi everyone! Alright, so I'm not going to yammer on much, that's not my style. I like to make cards. So let's turn the camera around and I will start with the very sweet and simple blog hop project, and then I'll show you some ideas for how we might step it up. Alright. Let's make sure I've got everything. How's my lighting, guys? Everything good? So if you're new around here, don't be shy, jump in and give me a comment. We love hearing from you. This project's very sweet and simple. I have a Whisper White card base. I've already cut that and scored, folded, it's all done. And I'm loving these pretty papers that we've got, and you could really use anything in your stash. I recently did a blog hop with the Let's Get Hopping group where we were encouraged to use up the papers in our stash because otherwise they just sit there and we never pull them out and do justice to them. So I like to use a bit of tape. You might have snail or glue. But before I stick those little strips down, these would be great off-cutty pieces. Hi Shelley, thanks for popping in. Hi Andrea, nice to see you. All right. We'll do a little bit of stamping. When you're working with a single layer card like this, you want to get the scariest bit done first. And I say scary because I recently just did a whole bunch of single layer cards. And when I was asked to do them, I said yes straight away because I thought, beauty, single layer cards, that's not going to be too hard. But oh my gosh, you don't realize how much you rely on your layers to cover up mistakes or embellishments to hide things that weren't quite working for you, until you have to make a single layer card and you can't do that. Oh, hi Susan. Hi Janice, thank you for popping in quickly. All right, so I've got my inks. I've gone with Balmy Blue and Night of Navy. I would have liked to have played with our brand new blue, the new in colour. Has anyone got that yet? I normally pick the in colours up pretty soon after they're released, so I get as much chance to play with them as possible. But I found this year they have I like to wait till I can get the whole pack of ink pads for a discount, and they're not available yet. So anyone, when Purple Posy comes back into stock and we can buy that, someone must tell me so I can do that. Alright, so I need my stamps, and of course we're all playing along with the very popular Sailing Home stamp set. And I have got the sentiment, which I want to do first. So there's two really beautiful stylized sentiments in this one. They're almost like motivational quotes. They're beautiful. So you could use any. I'm going with this one, let hope be the anchor through life's storm. And as I'm putting it on the block, I'm going to use a grid paper or a grid mat just to try and get it on as straight as possible. As I said, when you're stamping single layer, there's no room for error, and if that sits on there lopsided, I'm going to hate it, and there's no way you can cover it up. So I'm using my grid, excuse me, I might have to get my head down low to do this. I want to make sure that my block is sitting nice and straight along one of the lines, and that line in the sentiment is sitting along straight. So I'm using this line here to line this line up, and I know that this is straight, so now when I stamp, hopefully if I go straight to this edge I will be okay. And I'm going a bit off-centered because my papers are going to push my sentiment into the center of this space here, not to the center of the card. And I liked that for balance, so I'm going to go here. Beautiful. And then I've got my balmy blue, and this one I don't have to be so precise with. I'm going to pop that on the block. Add ink, and I'm not going to actually stamp that straight away first. I'm going to, and Narelle can hear my birds in the background. It's funny because you never quite, it always just goes into the background, you never quite pay much attention to them, and then when you listen to the video back you can really hear them. So it's come up much lighter this time round than it did the first time, but it still looks great. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Experiment a little bit. I'm tearing this little strip of stripy paper. What I liked about this one is it's got that lovely texture, neutral tone with those little lines, little pop of colour. Then I'm going to pop this on here. I haven't been stamping as much as I like lately because life has been very busy, so I'm enjoying the chance to have this little warm-up before I get into the big project to share with you. In fact, I'm going to bring that up a little bit higher. Oh, Trisha's here, she says hello. Hi everyone. So I've just torn that a little bit because I wanted to create some kind of torn. I'm big on tearing. I don't know why I love it so much. Maybe it's so easy to do and it adds that texture straight away. And I felt like it worked with the rustic nautical theme. So I'm just going to pop this on the edge. And there we have just a really sweet, simple card. And you'd find that if you've got any particular stamps you could layer like this, add a little bit of designer series paper and you've got yourself a really great, sweet, simple card. Actually, I think this might be fun to change into a Christmas theme. If there's a Christmas stamp set, that would work, because you could bang out a whole heap of these quite quickly and get your Christmas mailing list done. All right, nice and simple but still effective. Now I'm going to show you the stepped up version. So we used to have themes here at the Crafty Carrot, but we found that we were naturally creating projects that were covering a broad range of styles and design ideas, so we didn't really need our themes anymore. But this one is the stepped up version. So rather than the very simple stamping that we've got here, I've still utilized the papers, I've still utilized the stripes, a little bit of a different striped pattern because I didn't want that brown neutrals. I needed the white to pop with the other white elements in my stamping. So they're still along the same lines, just one has a lot of added additional detail and more of those artisan steps that I know you love to see. So hang on with me, this is going to take us a little while. Love it. The coloured sailboat. Oh, thank you. And Kylie says it looks amazing. Trisha said that the simple one would be great for a card buffet for beginners. Actually, Trisha, I used that in some of my card buffets and it was really well received. One of the big things I've been doing a lot lately is trying to create more achievable designs, because I've got a lot of people who are interested, but they're turned off by the amount of time, techniques, and product that you need to bring a card together when we do one of our traditional classes. And what I'm finding is they're seeing lots of examples in the card buffet of more simpler projects, and they're feeling really good about what they're making, and it's piquing their interest in learning to do more. So that's actually worked really well for me these last few months, particularly when I've been very busy. I'm in their situation now too, where there's not all that time. Like this kind of up-leveled card could take you a significant amount of time, and you don't mind putting that time in when it's giving you that sense of creative achievement. But often if you're racing out the door or you're not feeling confident in what you're doing with your card making and design, having something simple to refer back to works really well. All right, so I'll get started. I am going to cut my card base today because I haven't pre-prepared the pieces. I wanted to show you all the steps right from the start, just in case you are a beginner and you've found your way here and you're not familiar with basics. I think we take for granted as teachers, particularly in my classes in the past, I've always provided a pre-cut card base and all the elements pre-cut. Sometimes you forget that if someone hasn't made cards before themselves at home, they might not actually know how to put the card bases together themselves. We make those assumptions. So this is just, that was an A4. Here in Australia we have the A4 sized papers. I've cut that in half long ways, and I'm going to use this one to score. Lining up my edges, and I just use my fingernails because I happen to be blessed with long nails at the moment to go over those score lines. But you can use your bone folder if you've got that on hand. And that is my card base. So the next step is I've actually gone straight with stamping on my card base. So I did that much the same way that I did the white, except when I'm stamping here on the navy, I need to stamp in my Versamark. But before I stamp here, I might want my guide. So my paper, my patterned paper has a circle cut from it, and I want to make sure that I'm positioning my sentiment where I want it to be revealed through the window. And I want to show you how I did that before I had a card to work off to give me that. So I've got some of that beautiful patterned paper that I used in the same project we just featured, and I'm going to cut that down to, let me have a look at what my measurements were. So 9 centimeters by, that looks like 14.5. So 14.5 centimeters, which it already is, and 9
I said 9, didn't I? 9 centimeters. I'm going to go this way because it looks like that's a nice clean edge. I'm really stretching out my blades as much as possible at the moment because I'm waiting for that for Stampin' Up to decide on and create a new trimmer for us. Now, do you have one of these little old sanding blocks that'll help me get those little bits of fluffy edges off? Now I've just realised that to make the guide I am going to need a die that's not in my kit, so bear with me 2 seconds because I need to get my circle die to create that. There we go. So if you're playing along with me at home, what I'd love to challenge you to do if you make this project is to hold on to this circle, and I'd love to see what you do with the circle. Create a project of your own and give me some inspiration to make sure it doesn't get wasted. I am the worst for holding on to all the little bits and pieces. I've got a giant box at my desk and I don't want to throw anything out. I want it all to go into a project. All right, so I'm going to position that down in that bottom section, a little bit off to the right. And I don't need to, but I do like to go back twice. I'll move that out of the way. So now I've got an idea of where I need my sentiment to sit. And the other thing that I have is this piece. So in the initial sample I showed you, I went with this striped pattern. This one I've gone with the white and blue pattern, and the reason I've done that is because I really wanted to pick up the white that was around the sailboat. So when you die cut the sailboat, you've got quite a lot of white still around it, and that's unavoidable. So I thought it would be fun to just let it be highlighted a little bit. But you can see, look, it wouldn't have really made a huge amount of difference. So you go with what you've got on hand, see how it all comes together. And this one, so I want to make sure I've got around about the same bordering around my sides and my bottom, and I'm going to bring that right up to the top. I didn't want to border it all the way around. I'm not bordering along the top. And again, when I set up, because I want to do a single stamped image here, because I don't get a chance to fix it or cover it, I want to make sure it's on nice and straight. So I'm going to use my little trick again where I pull out my grid, line it up, line up the block somewhere with one of the lines, and then choose another line and try and get that on as straight as I can. Oh, I'm a bit nervous. I don't know if that's quite on. I'm loving the new cling stamps. Who else is loving the new cling stamps? I was forever having to put a bit of tape on. So I'm looking at this line here, the top of the inner. And if I get that on pretty straight with that green line there, I think I'll be okay. All right, so I've lined that up where I'm happy with it. Yeah, to hold my stamps onto the block, I used to have all my blocks are really messy. You'll notice I've got all this tape on my blocks. I used to hold the stamps in place. And I'm grateful for the cling. I feel like that's a really great improvement on Stampin' Up's part. All right, and I want to come to the top area of my window because I've got some other detail that I'm adding to these sides. So the trick now is to look at the line here and try and get that as straight as possible because that's what I used as a guide. And now you won't really know how successful you were until you add on that white powder. Oh, Susan says I still don't mount them on their stickers. Oh, I find that it works really well to have them mounted. All right, where is that white powder? I'm in love with heat embossing. For me, heat embossing gives instant wow factor, and it just makes it a total artisan level card straight away. That bright white on any of our cardstock, especially the deeper tones, looks really great. All right, just going to make sure I don't have too many little speckles. But again, I'm not too concerned about being overly precise because the nature of this card and the nautical element allows for some of those rugged little speckly mistakes that we make sometimes, and we've got lots of powder everywhere. All right, let's get that off. I'll clean my powder up now and make sure I put the lid on properly, otherwise I will have a giant powder accident somewhere later. Oh, Tanya's the same. I find the cling sticks too firmly to my blocks. Oh, that's interesting. All right, ladies, give me 2 seconds. My heat tool doesn't quite reach where I am at the table. I'm going to quickly set that. Oh, actually it does reach. Oh, that's fabulous. There's a bit of magic to this when you see it melt and go all nice and white. My card's buckled a little bit there, so I'm just going to go through the back. And we'll set that when it's all done. Oh, Lauren's here. Hi, Lauren. All right, so I have popped that on to my card base. And we've got this lovely layer to stick over the top, but before we do that, I'd like to tuck the little stripe detail in behind. And what I found as I put the card together, I wanted to give you a little tip for introducing a color into your project that was not part of the DSP suite. So for those of you who don't know, DSP stands for Designer Series Paper, and the beautiful papers that we've got with this particular project have lots of blues and greens. There's some of those browns and blacks, but I wanted to create this red sailboat. And for me, I felt like it would be good to have another little bit of a red element somewhere in the project to tie that red in a little bit more. So what I've done, I don't know if you can tell, I've added some red stripes into my little strip. Oh, hi Lisa, hi Tracy. So I've added some red, I've just used a marker, and that just helps bring that red into the project in other areas. So I've got my little red marker. I'll need that bit of scrap paper. So I wonder what you think of that idea, modifying our DSP just a little bit. Some of the other ways that I've modified DSP is with sponging, depending on the project. If there was a card I did recently, well, a couple of cards I did recently using an old Fresh Florals Designer Series paper, which featured in colours, you know, the Tranquil Tide and Berry Burst. And I sponged those and turned them from that monochromatic into a patterned paper. Oh, hi Cheryl. She's from Idaho. Oh, Trisha says she likes that idea. She says it's clever. Thanks, Trisha. I like to have... one of my favourite things about Stampin' Up is that they've got so many elements that are in similar colours so that you can really create a coordinated, pretty little project. And I didn't know how else to add that red. So I'm just using a ruler, and this lined paper has a white space in between all of these, and I'm not being too precise. As long as it's in between there somewhere, I don't think anyone's going to quite look at it too closely. Tracy says she's sorry. She's like, no, don't stress. I started with my very simple blog hop project to warm up first. So if you've missed that, you can go back and check it after when we load the replay. All right, so I've used it kind of looks, it makes me think of pajamas now, all of those stripes. So I'm going to do a similar thing to what I just did. I'm going to put my tape on. I'm going to position the striped pattern to the back of this one before I lay it all down. And I'm going to tear that little bit of the stripes at the bottom off. In fact, I might just stick away. I don't want to go and have sticky stuff coming out of my little window. Oh, Cheryl says she likes the added red, and Lisa likes this idea too. Thanks, girls. All right, so this is the bit where I just need to be mindful because I've cut it so it will have similar bordering all the way around. I want to make sure I put that where I want it, and now that it's about there, I'm going to just tear this little bit off. I feel like you can't pretty up masculine cards with a lot of detail, and adding that little bit of tearing adds texture. For me, I like that. Alright, so that's going to sit on there, but before I stick that in place, I noticed that we had a die in our sailing, I want to call it sailing home, but I'm pretty sure the sailboat stamps, the dies have a different name, so if anyone's got that handy, let me know. But they've got this seaweed die, and I was looking at it and I thought this bit here would make some fun waves for our sailboat to sit on. Hi Vicky! I got to meet Vicky at the last on stage. It's so lovely when you get to meet people that you've only ever connected with online in person. It was really wonderful. She came over to say hello. So I'm going to use this die here to create some waves for my sailboat. What do you think, guys? Did I make a good call? Did they look like waves to you too? I have gone with Balmy Blue. And I like to try and get the most I can out of my papers, so I'm just gonna poke it out the side. It's fun trying to find ways to use dies and images in a way that they weren't intended. Gives you that extra purpose for them. So I'm just positioning. I wanted really that reedy one. And I'm going back through. And again, this paper did not have a lot of white in it. And when I've got the white around my sailboat, that was unavoidable. And I don't actually have a white card base for this project. I wanted to find ways just to sneak a bit of that brighter white in there. And so I've got some scrap white. Where did it go? Here. And I'm going to layer in a little bit of white into my white foamy waves. So just using my scrap paper bin again. I'll run that through. I don't know if I went all the way that time. There we go. So this is the bit that I'm really interested in. What I'm going to do is position those behind my window. Lauren says, your voice is so sweet and soothing. I could listen to your instructions for hours. Oh, you're a sweetheart. That's really nice. I've always been a bit shy of the camera. So that's really nice of you to say. All right, so I'm again looking at where I want to position that, and I'm just going to use some tape around that circle so I don't have to worry about glue or anything. if I can find ways to leverage the adhesive I've already got to hold those into place. So here we go. That's where my sentiment's going to be. I want to do my blue first because I liked the way that soft blue popped out. And I want to position it in a way that makes it look a bit like waves. So, I think last time I came along this way. And then I've got this one here. And I want to offset them just a little bit. I don't want them looking too identical. In fact, I might lift that a little bit if it'll let me. And just, I'm conscious that that's now going to be my waves as we set sail. And these bits here that do give away that it was intended for a different purpose are actually going to be covered by the sailboat, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to use a little bit of extra tape just over this bit here. I think it's all going to hold together fairly well, but just in case, I don't want it to fall apart later when it gets to where it's intended to be. And take those sides off. Oh, Charlotte's jumped in. Hi, Charlotte. All right. Make sure there's no puppy dog hairs in there. All right, here we go. I'm going to line that up along the top. As I said, I've carefully bordered it so it's the same bordering around 3 sides. I'm going to use that window now to hold everything in place. And that is ready to have a few little embellishments. Oh, Janice says she loves the wave element. Thanks, Janice. Yeah, I wanted to find a way that was just a little bit different to help bring that pop of colour, and using dyes when you've got that cardstock that ties in so beautifully with what you're doing, it's such a great way to do that. I'm going to try and take this off so I don't end up with Night of Navy all over my fingers, because that's always fun when you work hard to stamp something and end up with a mess. And I'm going to use Memento ink, and I've gone for the largest sailboat because I wanted to colour and create a bigger feature to sit on that circle. So I was designing this card last week when I was watching Cindy's tutorial, and I loved that she gave us some tips for lining the dies up. And if you missed that, I'll be able to show you. I always look at this little stamp, see this little piece here? And I wonder if there was a hair or something on my stamp set, so I always quick double check it. It gets me every time. Make me wonder if I'd stamped that wrong. Alright, so I've stamped that and I'm going to give it a little bit of colour, but before I do that, I might quickly add the little wheel. So I wanted to layer an additional element in there, and I've got this piece of soft suede and the steering wheel. I feel like I'm calling that wrong. It can't possibly be a steering wheel. What do they call it when they're on a ship? And I'm using my die, and again I'm just going to cut that. What I love about this particular die is it doesn't have a matching stamp. You don't feel like you need to stamp first and then cut it out. It's got all of the impressions already in it from the die. So let me find my little pokey tool. I'm going to pop those out. So I'll show you up close if you can see that. So if you notice, it already does the impressions as it cuts, so you've got this lovely detail in your wheel. It's so easy. This one I will glue, but I'm going to do a few other things before I do that. Let's do a little bit of colouring and I can pack my big shot away. So I might come down Tracy thinks it's a ship's wheel. Yeah, I was going to say the steering wheel doesn't sound right. All right, so I'm bringing my camera really close because when you are new to blends, they can be a little bit daunting. I've got my light colour and my dark colour. These ones come in a combo. And I like to layer a little bit of dark first. In fact, because I need to go in quite small, I'm going to use my dark just to bring a little bit of shadowing through here. I tend to follow Stampin' Up's guide. The ship's helm, Narelle, well done. I think you're right. Take the helm. Is that what they say in the movies? All right, so now I'm colouring back over with my light colour. And that is going to, if it doesn't dry too quick from the heater being on in here, blend those darker tones in. You can layer up colour from the same tone too. So as that dries, I can go back over with this light tone and just swipe in where it's all deeper. And I've got my dark one again. Actually, I might just keep it to that. So the blends are fabulous because you can just keep layering colour over colour. And they should just all blend in really nicely and give you that graduation of colour. So I'm hoping you're seeing that well. All right, so while I've got my dark here, I'm just going back over just where it's shaded, just a few little dots and spots. You'll find with Stampin' blends that they bleed. They don't, see how it comes on here nice and strong. Oh, actually it comes on here nice and strong, and as it dries it bleeds out. So what we need to be careful of is that we're staying not too close to our little black lines, or it will bleed and make a little bit of a mess. You can see it go from light to dark. You can, yeah, it's great. As it dries, you start to see that shadowing. And if you really want to, you can just keep adding layers with that same tone and you'll find you get those lovely shadows. And so I've got that really bright red sail. Now I'm going to add the browns. So I was a bit shy when I started to colour with my browns. I've used this one is the ivory marker, and I find it's almost like a crumb cake colour. So I'm just going with the finer tip. I'm doing that first. I'm just laying down a base of colour, so there's no white left. And this way I know if I miss anything with my deeper colour, I'm going to still have brown in behind. And for the deeper tones, I've chosen the soft suede. Where are you? I've got the light soft suede and the dark soft suede. So I'm going to stick with my light soft suede because compared to that ivory, it's going to be quite deep. And as I said, I don't like going too close to the sides. That bit's going to be quite dark. So having laid down that base colour first, that much lighter base colour, means I'm not going to be left with any real white spots. So using the same tone as it dries, I'm just going back and doing those bits that would need a bit of heavier shading. And then what I'm going to do is get my darker marker, the pointy end again, and just do a few little dots in here just to give it that dimension. That's going to be quite dark. And I've got my soft suede again. You could do this all day. This is the bit that's going to be, I have to be really careful. So I'm just being very light-handed, trying the best I can to stay in those lines. I bled a little bit with my red here, but let's blend that out with our brown, and no one will notice. You won't tell anyone, will you guys? And you'll see as it dries, it won't have that intensity of colour, and the layers will start to pop out a little bit more, the tone. So I have the Stampin' Up marker, so I had the red Stampin' Up marker to do my stripes, and now I have the balmy blue, and I'm just going to add that here. And the reason I'm using that is because I don't have a blend in balmy blue, and I didn't want to leave my little waves undone. Oh, Jacqueline's here. She says hello from Michigan. Hi, Jacqueline. Thank you for joining me. All right, so Cindy did have a tip. So that's my colouring. I'll get the big shot back out again. And keep the camera nice and close because hopefully we can use Cindy's tip too. She said to line up the lines. So you see these little holes that are along here. Here, they're completely white. On here, they're completely white. But if I move them, you can see the black line poking through them. So hopefully, I do have my magnetic plate, but you can see my plates, my clear plates are quite well loved. And sometimes things slip. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I have to do this and I can't breathe. Hold my breath. There's nothing worse than when you've spent all that time colouring something and it slides when you cut it. Perfect. So there's our little sailboat. Alright, I'll bring you back up here. Jacqueline says my voice is very sweet. Thank you. That's you're not the first one to say that today. That's really kind. Alright, oh, you could layer that so that it sits in behind those little waves. I liked going over the top because I'm going just to position it so that you don't see that these waves don't continue on, so that you get that effect of the waves. And before I did this, I wanted to find a way to add a little bit of twine. I love twine, whether it's baker's twine or this linen thread is my favorite. And I was thinking for a masculine project, do I do one of those cute little anchors or something? And then I thought, no, I'm just sticking with a bow. In my experience, men don't really pay too much attention to the detail. So, well, I could give this to one of my lady friends. It doesn't need to be a masculine project. I am going to use the wheel to hold on to my thread. That gives me one less thing that I have to glue into place. So I'm going to tie it just like you would shoelaces. It's just gone around there. All right. Give it a little loop, scoop, pull it through. Can you tell I've been trying to train my son to do his laces? Loop, scoop and pull. Alright, now I'm just putting my finger in the center and I want those loops to be quite small. But you find that if you keep pulling on the edges, they twist a little bit. So putting my finger in the middle seems to stop that from twisting. And I'm going to give those little ends a trim. I don't mind having a few longer ends. And you can always go shorter. You can't add length back if you've cut too small. This is the one element that I will stick down with glue. And the reason I hesitate to use liquid glues on projects, I don't know about you guys, but I do find that they spill. If you put too much on and you end up with blobs everywhere, I'm so messy. I need things to be clean. Alright, so I'm just using a little bit of the fine tip glue, putting little dots, trying to stay in the middle of the thickest part of the wheel so that when we do put it down, it doesn't squirt all over the edges. And I'm going to position that about, let me have a look at where my ship goes because I want enough of it to show. Let's go about there. Oh, it slid around. Now we just have to hold it, or maybe I can put, hopefully that was enough glue. Let's use that instead of a finger. The clear block can hold it while I add some dimensionals. Now, I like the mini dimensionals, so we've got the big ones, and then I don't have to cut them. And cutting your dimensionals leaves you with all the sticky stuff on your scissors and makes it harder to fussy cut later. Right, these are the perfect size. I'm going to pop them in there. 3 will do. And hopefully, just position that. Just want to make sure that all my sentiment pops out. And I'm keeping an eye on the bottom here. Make sure my boat goes straight, and there we go. What do you think, guys? Is that something you would give a go, make at home? So I've showed you this beautiful stepped up card, and I've given you some ideas for editing your designer series papers so that you can add a little bit of colour that wasn't originally in the suite. And I've showed you how to use your dies for this one just a little bit differently to create that wave effect. The window and the die, the Versamark stamping was a bit of fun. It gives it that element of professionalism, I suppose, to a project. That stepped up version. And these are the more simple cards that I made a little bit earlier. So if you jumped on later and you're wanting some ideas for a simple version, do have a look at those. You might enjoy that, particularly with Christmas just around the corner. All right, I'll turn that around. Betty says, oh yes, I love it. Thank you, Betty. That's really nice to hear. All right, let's turn you around. All right, guys, so I put my big shot on my chair, so I can't sit down. Thank you so much for joining me. As I said, you'll have, I think we've still got 2 tutorials this month. Tanya, if you're still there, you're being our special guest, I think. Off memory, you get to come on board. So Tanya is part of my downline, and it's very special to me that I was able to help her get to a point where she felt confident with applying for Artisan. Now she is one of our fabulous Artisan design team members, so you won't want to miss her tutorial coming up. And of course, the fabulous Miss Krista always has something amazing for us, so I look forward to seeing what she has as well. If you are looking forward to having a few more examples, videos and tutorials with us as part of the Crafty Carrot, we would love to have you subscribe. A few of you have subscribed, and it's my job to process those subscriptions, so I'll be doing that right now. And if you don't hear from us straight away, we're busy. You will get your links before the start of the Daisy Lane program, so don't worry, you'll get all your information really soon. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope there's no more questions. If there's something that you're finding that you want to know a little bit more about, don't hesitate to use the board, the Facebook wall there in the group. Ask away if you've got questions. We'd love to hear from you. And Cindy has a Sunday share that she posted this week about your favorite stamp set, the retired one that you just can't let go of. I've got a few favorites, and there were a few stamp sets I thought I'd never let go of, and then I did end up selling them. But I do have a whole heap of favorites that I've got, so don't hesitate to jump in. We love hearing from you, and we'd love to know what you've got to share. All right, I better go before I keep rambling, and I have used up enough of your afternoon as it is. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh, Vicky, we look forward to having you in the Daisy Lane group too. All right, guys, thank you so much. Bye.